In 3, 2, 1. All right. Welcome, everybody, to Jewish Boy Calls His Mother. I'm your host, Sadia Engster, and this is my mom, Ima. Hello, Ima.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
Baruch Hashem and you.
Thank God. Thank God. So today's topic, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get you to listen to this song, but if anyone's listening, you might be familiar or you might not be familiar with an artist called Cardi B, who came out with this song recently called WAP. And it's the most disgusting, lewd song you've ever heard. But like, after I listened to it and I thought about it, she's just copying Missy Elliott, who was an artist in the early 2000s, who, same thing, had very lewd, like, intense songs. And it's like, and then there was this other artist called Nicki Minaj who complained to the media that Cardi B stole her style. And it's like, I don't think there's anything new under the sun. And our topic tonight will be talking about music and how music really hasn't changed. And I know we talked about this earlier today, where you were telling me about how like classical music is obviously the best and rock music is just terrible.
I didn't say it was terrible, but I like rock music. There's a lot of rock music that I like, but it's like rock music is the quick fix. And, it can really, how can I say it? If it can really influence your mood very, very quickly. And it's like candy, you might say. But rock music is one of these things where, let's face it, you get a popular song and it's popular for a couple of weeks. And then after that, it's like people lose interest in it. Why? Because rock music is not the type of music you can listen to every single day for hours and hours and hours, because there's not enough substance in it. Whereas classical music, like you could listen to a Beethoven symphony every single day for weeks on end. And every time you listen to it, you hear something new, you hear something different, because there's so much, I guess, better word I'm looking for is it's more complicated. There's more substance to it. There's more variations. And you can always pull out something new from it. As opposed to rock music, you can't do that.
That comes with anything that's complex, though. Like you're listening to mainstream rock music, you're gonna get that feeling of pop because that's what they're trying to do. They're working with radio. They're asking to make sure that it can play on the radio and it can grab the attention span of some 18-year-old girl, who like is interested in like the latest fashion. So you're gonna have that, but there's some rock where like it is layered. You have, of course, Pink Floyd. I was telling you about, who a lot of their albums are not just albums, but it's a whole composition from start to finish for 45 minutes. Is everything okay in the background? What's happening in the background?
Nothing. Except one of the kids is pouring some cereal. That's all.
Oh, okay. Can you go into like a quiet? Is there any way for you to be secluded, because I'm picking up the audio and I'm trying not to have issues with it.
Okay, well, it should be okay. I mean,
okay. All right, it's fine. It's fine. It's okay. All right, no worries. It's just I'm trying to make sure the audio is tight. But I don't have the program that we're on. There's nothing special. I'm just hit recording and we talk, and it's just I don't want to like have too much clatter in the background.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so like a lot of music, it's these albums are 45 minutes to like an hour long, where you start from finish and you can hear it and you can listen to the whole thing, and like each part is complex and deep and very layered. But I think what is so interesting, and this is something I feel like, I think the majority of the population enjoys rock music, and a lot. I don't mean to bash anybody that likes classical music, but it just sucks. It's just boring. Like
Well,
I've
yeah,
tried to get into
you
it.
can't make
I've
that,
tried.
Saj. You can't make that. Listen, I've heard people say that, and what it is, people who are saying, "Oh, classical music, is boring." They're drawing. How can I say it? They're painting it with one brush. There's, I tell the truth. I've come across some rock music that I found was boring. Um, I've come across, yeah, I don't like all classical music, even though, that is what my degree is in. And I'm very familiar. Of course, I'm obviously very educated in that area. But there's a lot of classical pieces that I have not liked either. So it's like,
Well, no,
you know,
I don't mean to, and I don't mean to. I don't mean to paint such a broad brush. It's just that I tried to get into classical music, and I'm not sure if I haven't listened to the right one. A lot of times for me, it's like I need to listen to the right one for me to really enjoy it.
mhm.
It can't just be anything. And I listen to like in Baltimore, 91.5, you listen to all the classical music, and I could listen to it. And I try to I for a long time, and Joseph could attest to this, where I tried. He saw me do it. We were laughing, we were joking around about it a little bit. How like I tried very hard to like get into classical music, and I wanted to be like that classical music guy and that artsy guy and whatnot. And I tried so hard, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't do it.
Well, part of it, quite honestly, is there used to be in the schools when I was growing up, my generation, we had music appreciation, and also anybody with a college degree had to take a standard music appreciation course where they basically learned the basic rudiments of music, and they had to become familiar with classical well-known classical works. And as a matter of fact, I remember when Aunt Dan was in college, for her music appreciation final, the teacher took a record, a Lloyd Jones 72 RPM record that had main classical themes from main works. And the final exam was him just dropping the needle, and you had like a minute to hear the main theme of that particular piece, and you had to write down where that main theme was from, what piece, and the name of the composer. They don't do that anymore.
Well, I mean, honestly, this is something that, again, this is more personal to me and a lot of other people. Going to these ultra Orthodox Jewish schools, you don't learn anything. If you're a guy, you don't learn anything but Gemara or the Talmud, if anybody is curious to know. That's all you do from 7:30 in the morning. You have morning prayers, then you start at 9 o'clock to 8:15 at night. So 7:30 in the morning to 8:15 at night, you're just doing like, you have your English courses at like 1:30, 2 o'clock. But like the first 4 or 5 hours of your day, all you're doing is Gemara day in, day out. And the rest is just basic like math, English, science, history. That's it. Mm-hmm. So like there's no room. Besides the fact that sadly, a lot of them think that like music appreciation is too secular. So you shouldn't have it because it's too secular. That you can't like do anything. But like that's something that I kind of experienced. And the only way I could have music appreciation was when I left to Israel, and then I started getting into Chabad Nigunim, which, in case anyone's wondering what Chabad Nigunim are, they're more of musical incantations that rabbis would start with their followers, and they would sing it together. And a lot of it would be like, it's more like a 4-minute long, but you drag that 4 minutes to like an hour, where like you get into this like meditative state of mind. So like I could get into Chabad Nigunim no problem, where like you can sing a nigun and you could just go ahead and get into that zone.
Oh,
where you can
explain for the audience
part.
what a nigun. I like to pronounce it nigun. The Israeli pronunciation. Explain for the audience what a nigun is.
Well, nigun is how you pronounce it if you're using Eastern European pronunciation. It's spelled in Hebrew Nun Yod Gimel Vav Nun, and these are songs that most of the time were composed by the rabbis themselves. Sometimes they were actually, old bar songs, or one was composed by a mufti, I think. It's a very famous song. That's a different story. And the songs were able to you use them to elevate your soul and to achieve a higher level of spirituality, to maybe reveal a part of godliness into this world.
Well, some were even borrowed from the ethnic non-Jewish
I just
folk
said that.
songs.
I said that. Yeah.
I thought it was interesting. One time I was listening to WBJC, and I hear this symphonic piece that I'm listening to the themes that are in this particular symphonic piece, and it sounded like some themes that I was familiar with from Chabad Nigunim, and the announcer said that this was a Romanian symphony based on Romanian folk songs.
Yeah. I was gonna say there's this other folk song. It's not a folk song. So in Russia, the Russians were persecuting these Muslim group. I don't know what the name is called, and I don't want to butcher it, but there was this Muslim group, and the head of the Muslim group, I think it was a mufti or a Saladin, I think the name was called, and he was thrown into prison. And when he was thrown into prison, he was singing a song he composed, reminiscing of the beautiful natural life that he was living when he was free. And a chassid was nearby and heard him sing it, and then he relayed it to his Rebbe. I think it was the fifth Lubavitch Rebbe or the fourth Lubavitch Rebbe. This happened in the late 1800s.
Is this Shmelke's Nigun?
Shmelke?
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know. I never heard it was called Shmelke.
Because the story I heard was a little bit different. Not that this guy was a mufti, but the story I read that this guy was actually a robber that had been captured.
No. He wasn't a robber.
Maybe something different.
No, he was a rebel. He was a rebel because the Russians were trying to take over a certain piece of land, and he was one of the rebels that was undermining their authority. And then he was caught, and then thrown into prison. And then he was singing about the countryside that he missed, and then a chassid heard him sing it, and then the chassid went over to I think the fifth or the fourth Lubavitch Rebbe and told him about it, and so they turned it into a whole song, and it's named after him too. I'd have to figure this out. I don't know if I can pause this or whatnot and check on Wikipedia, but it's a whole thing about it. It's if anyone's interested, it's I don't know what it's called, but yeah. So like that's the whole point of what a nigun really is, and that's what I like. For me, I can easily relate to, and I can see the depth in it. I think a lot of times if people would hear a nigun, they'd get bored, they get tired, they get annoyed by it because they don't understand. And I think that's what you mean, where it's like people only get bored of it because you don't understand the complexity of it or the depth of it. And that's why it's so important to understand the depth of it. And it's part of the deal when you unfortunately have people that aren't fully informed. But in a weird, twisted way, the advantage is now you have just their natural inclination with unbiased opinion, what they feel is good. And I think that speaks volumes as well, where it's like, this is unbiased. I wasn't taught how to love something. It's kind of like Jackie Mason had this joke where it's like, he never understood beer. Beer tastes disgusting. You have to have when you drink a beer, you have to go ahead and you have to have an acquired taste for beer. You don't get an acquired taste with a potato chip. You just know it tastes good. And I think in a way it's like good music. People know it's good. You don't need to acquire a taste to it. And I think that's happening nowadays, where unfortunately the arts is being stripped, and a lot of musical appreciation is being removed. But I think people still want to make music. People still thrive and strive to create music. It's a connection to the soul.
Yes.
It's why it's why some people or a lot of people are very particular on who they listen to, because when you listen to that person, you connect to their soul when you listen to their music. And that's why it's so important who you listen to. And if it's a person that's, like good or not good, which brings me to another point. You like Wagner as a composer.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of like Overture to Rienzi, like the Tannhäuser, the Overture to Tannhäuser. Mm-hmm.
But like they played that shit in Auschwitz.
Somebody else comes along and bastardizes a piece of art.
No, he was a flat out anti-Semite.
He can enjoy it. Yeah.
Well, no, I understand. It's just the idea is it's a very common debate of, do you separate the artist from the art?
It's so true. Yeah.
Like watching a Woody Allen movie. It's like watching these things. Do you separate the artist from the art? I believe in separating the artist from the art. I think you can.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
I think you I mean, if you constantly, again, this is something that we talked about, I think, in a previous podcast.
Mm-hmm.
But like when you constantly have this idea that everyone has to be perfect before you get to like listen to them or appreciate them or be a part of their life. I mean, like Gandhi slept with like little girls. His idea was being able to control his instincts, his sexual urges. So he was in bed. He was in bed, but never touched or anything like that. But he was in bed with girls. So that's always kind of weird. It's always just kind of off. It's just everybody.
Mm-hmm. But I want to go back to like when we were discussing people's taste in classical music. What I think is funny is how many people say, "Oh, I hate classical music," yet your ringtone is 1812 Overture by Tchaikovsky. And they look at you and they go, "Well, I didn't know that was classical music." Then one time, I have an interesting story though I want to tell. That one time I got a phone. This is before the age of cell phones, and I get a call on the telephone from telemarketer, and I was listening to WBJC, and they were playing the Triumphal March from Aida, and so the telemarketer starts to give me his sales pitch, and all of a sudden he stops. And he says to me, "My goodness," he goes, "that's such beautiful music you have in the background. Do you mind putting the phone next to your radio so I can listen to it?" I said, "Sure, no problem." I put the receiver next to the radio and, for a good few minutes and picked it up. He said, "Thank you so much. That was beautiful music. What was that?" I told him it was the Triumphal March from the opera Aida by Giuseppe Verdi. And he said, he says to me that he felt so badly that he said, by that time, classical music, not classical music, but music appreciation in general, the music appreciation courses have been virtually eliminated from the public school curriculum. And he said he didn't know that such beautiful music even existed.
Wow. I think that's what it's all about. It's just discovering new stuff. And that's what I've said before. And it's like if something's good, you don't have to explain it being good. It's similar to architecture, really. In architecture, sometimes you have architecture and it's just beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And then you have some architecture where it's totally like disgusting. It's total shit. Like I can't express how much it's disgusting. And you'll have all these academic people explaining how beautiful it is, doing all this detail and that detail. I'm like, no, don't try to like put lipstick on a pig. Don't try to tell me that this is something that's all beautiful and nice and whatnot, when clearly I can tell it's disgusting. It's something that's I think that mainly that bothers me. I think most people, where it's like you have these like highly intellectual people, these I don't want to say higher ups, because it just sounds like like it's the 1%, but like these people that clearly feel like they're the ones that are on top, and they tell you how it's supposed to be and how this is supposed to be art. Yeah. This is supposed to be beauty. Mm-hmm. And you look at it and you're like, don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. Don't go ahead and tell me that no joke. I was reading some articles about certain art performances and whatnot. And one of them was like a guy literally masturbated on a camera, and then from his semen, he put it on the lens and then etched out some kind of like drawing and like
That's
used it
sick.
as some kind of like what it like stop. What the fuck are you doing?
That's just,
What the fuck are you
yeah.
doing? This isn't being provocative. You're just being disgusting.
Do you know there was the song "Are You Reeling in the Ease, Stowing Away the Time"? There's a line in there that goes, "The weekend at the college didn't turn out as you planned. What passes for knowledge, I don't understand." So true.
Yep.
What passes for
Yep.
knowledge, I don't understand.
It's just, and again, this is why some people are getting frustrated with the college, you know, in general, just the college programs, because people go to college and they're supposed to come up with new ideas. They're supposed to be coming there and being educated, and all they come out with is bullshit degrees and thousands of dollars in debt.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like
Mm-hmm.
college isn't even getting you a job anymore. It's not
Mm-hmm.
getting you anywhere. It's just something. It was a nice idea. It turned into a bad habit that no one can kick right now. It's like they have to go to college. They have to go ahead and like get their degree, but like that's only because you don't know what else to do. Because you were told how to think all these years in high school and elementary school and middle school. Like you were told how to think, and now you're trying to figure out who you are. So at like 18, we just say, okay, by this time you have to decide what you're going to be for the rest of your life.
Mm-hmm.
It's honestly, that's why I feel like I'm glad I did, but people should take a gap year before they think of going to college. Just a total gap year. You're totally off, doing absolutely nothing, or living abroad or doing whatever, but you're not thinking about college. You're just thinking about yourself. And because you really, I at least from my experience, like if you don't have that time, you will lose yourself into some kind of like system, thinking that that's your identity now.
Saj, I can't agree with you more. I have seen so much of that where people without any direction or inclination of what they want to do with their lives will just go to college and wind up at the end with nothing but a bunch of courses and no real degree and no real training for any type of profession. I think the only reason anyone should have for going to college is if you are interested in a profession that requires a college degree. And if you're not interested in a profession that requires a college degree, there are a lot of very well-paying jobs out there that only require 1 or 2 years of basic training in that particular for that particular vocation. I met a man when I was in Israel with your father a few years ago. The man was a retired lumberjack. Now, don't start singing the song, okay?
Okay, I won't.
But
I won't.
he was from Oregon. He had a high school degree. This man, as a lumberjack, was explaining to me that it's not just chopping down trees. You have to know what kind of tree you're dealing with. Every single species of tree has a different way of having to chop it down, or you're going to totally ruin the wood. It's a whole science, and you have to know what you're doing. This man was, when he was working, he was retired now, but when he was working, was earning $175,000 a year.
Wow.
I thought to myself, why did I bother going to college?
Yeah, well, that's that. Well, for me personally, it's like I have an associate's degree in rabbinical law, I have a bachelor's degree in Talmudic law, and I have a master's degree in architecture, and I have been unemployed for almost a year. It's like my and people in my profession complain about the same thing I'm complaining about, where it's like you get laid off like every other Tuesday, and there's no job security. Where it's like you really have to have passion for this like type of profession, because this is absolutely ridiculous. It's really, really rough and really hard, and it's like I had moments where I was even questioning, like, why am I doing this? Why did I do this? And I gotten past it now. I've learned how to go with the flow, and I've gotten better at working it on my craft and whatnot. But it's just, if I hear somebody that wants to get into architecture or wants to get into one thing or another, I'm like, don't waste your time. You really, it's just, you get taught and you get told that this is the only thing like out there. Like, this is the only option. And I think people are slowly like waking up to that, where like, this isn't our only option. You don't have to constantly go to college.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay. So it's a little bit past our time, but I think we had a great session today.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Ema. I love you. And I'll talk to you, God willing, soon.
I love you too, honey. And since this program is entitled Jewish Boy Talks to His Mother, so be careful what you're eating. Better eat healthy.
Oh my God, you just sound like Bubby, by the way. For a split second, you just sounded like Bubby. No joke. No joke.
Behave yourself.
Oh, yeah.
You're a good boy.
I will. All right. I love you.
Love you, honey.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.